So far today, we've learned a little bit about why we've chosen to sod versus seat. We've talked about sod quality. We talked about the tools that we need. And now I think it's important to talk more about the meat and potatoes of why we're here, which is how we get sod laid properly. So I'm standing in our work site right now. We've already done a little bit of prep here. There might be slight differences between work sites depending on the nature of your job. When it comes to sodding, the best scenario is when you've previously come in with a sod cutter and you've cut everything out. And the reason why is because after you've used a sod cutter, everything's nice and flat. You've cut it to the depth already of the sod that you need to bring it in, so you don't need a lot of the tools that we talked about. There's not a lot of prep that needs to take place. You just cut the sod, remove it, bring the new sod in, and you lay it. And the only thing you really need to worry about is depth and cutting in your edges, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you have a slightly different work site, like the one I'm standing in, we have a little bit of a irregular shaped area that we've excavated. This is a high traffic zone, so we have some issues with undulations and compaction. We've actually had to go in and remove some of this material and then rake it out. And in particular, today we are a little bit unlucky because the site has lots of sticks and stones and different kinds of soil and inconsistencies. And if we want a really good job, we need to spend a lot of time finessing this site. So I have my trusty landscape rake, and this is a really important tool when we're talking about site prep in a workspace just as this. If you look all around me, you'll see some rocks and sticks and things, and if we want a really high quality output, we need to remove as many of those inconsistencies as possible. Now you can spend all day trying to perfect a site, but we've made a pretty good job of prepping this simply by taking our landscape rake and slowly pulling some of those materials off the surface, collecting some of those rocks as we're going with our rake, and then moving them into a spoil pile that will be taken off site at a later time. After we've done a pretty good job raking and leveling the surface, it's time to move on to edging. So we've talked about our site prep and the importance of raking and getting a nice smooth surface for the sod to lay on. And now I want to talk a little bit about edging. In this particular case, our work site is not a regular or geometric shape. So we've actually had to come in with our edging tool and create our own edge. We have to define the borders of where we're going to finish our sod job. For larger jobs, it might be wise to have a sod cutter and bring it in and run your sod cutter around the edge. Nice straight lines work very, very well because sod is a rectangular shape and it fits well into areas that have 90-degree corners. Today, we're still roughly in an irregular area, so we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges of laying sod in an irregular area. So I'm going to use my edger to go along this front edge, my back edge, and my side edges and cut the straightest, cleanest line that I can. And it's important to have a nice, clean, straight line because that's where my sod is going to abut against that edge. And we want a nice, tight fit there because any gaps allow oxygen and air to get in, and that can dry out our sod, and now we're chasing water after we're done our job.